Your main priority when defending is not to win the ball back. Hey, what is up guys? Big Feds here with a guide on how to defend as a top 1% player no matter the meta. In these guides, we've been going through the fundamentals of football. We've got one guide on dribbling, we've got one guide on passing, and now probably the most important part of football and the last fundamental is defending. Now defending is not as straightforward as attacking. It all boils down to your understanding of what's happening in the game and reading your opponent. This isn't easy, especially as all of this changes from game to game with different opponents. I've always thought that the skill gap has been in how you defend, not how you attack. You can get away with having a dodgy attack, but you cannot get away with having a bad defense. In this guide, I'll mostly be focusing on some good ways to think when you're defending, as well as give some easy tips on how to implement those tricks. Now, all of the clips in this guide, except for one which I will put a note on, are against two pro players and rivals. I'll be putting their info below for those interested. If you want to watch the games, they are available as a VOD on my Twitch channel. I'll be putting the link in the description below. A good defense does not necessarily mean always winning the ball back. I cannot stress this enough. The majority of the mistakes people make when defending is they tunnel vision on getting the ball back in every defensive action. In my dribbling guide, I mentioned how you want to draw your opponent in so he opens up space. So this means when you're defending, you want to stay put. The consequences of tunnel visioning on the ball is that people usually overcommit when defending, they open up space, and they are simply being left behind. Your main priority when defending isn't to win the ball back, it's to make sure your opponent doesn't score. If your opponent is attacking and you force him back, that means you've successfully defended one attack. Now you just need to keep on doing that until you get the ball back. But you do not have to win the ball each time. So the central parts of the pitch are the most important parts. It's fairly straightforward. You don't want your opponent to have free space in the middle of the field as he has as many options he wants. If you push him out to the side, it makes it easier to defend against. What it does is it gives him hard angles and tight spaces, which makes it very easy to know what you want to do and how to defend against that. In this example, pay attention to how I move to close off the central parts of the pitch. I'm willing to leave the wings free for him to move into, but I want to defend the central parts. As I'm able to cut off the passing lane while doing that, it forces him to look for another option, which is someone that is already close by, and I've got so many players already surrounding him, which makes it very easy for me to put some pressure, win the ball, and out of that get a very good counter opportunity that I completely botched by making a very bad decision. But generally, keeping the central parts of the pitch are the most important thing. A common theme I hear no matter who's playing is, I knew he would do that. Knowing what your opponent is going to do doesn't really matter if you can't stop him. You should always look for the next step. There are many times you can see what your opponent is going to do. For example, he's passing to his winger. Trying to force one of your players to intercept when there's a 1% chance you'll actually succeed usually leads to your opponent getting a better opportunity because of the space you open up. Instead, take a look at what his options are and make a decision on where you want to defend instead. As soon as I realize that I'm not going to be able to intercept the ball, I start thinking for the next step. Firstly, I push my player up so he puts pressure on him, and then I switch to the center back to look for his next options. In this situation, the most dangerous pass he could make is to the striker coming in. So we move close, we stand right where he is, until that player isn't dangerous, and we start looking for the step after that. When he turns, his best and safest options are the pass backwards, and we realize that. So we start moving in that direction before he passes. This means when his player receives the ball, my defender is already on him, which makes for a very easy interception. I've always slightly disagreed when it comes to advice people give when they say do not use your center backs when defending. I understand the reasoning behind it, but my view on it is you can do whatever you want defensively as long as you know what the consequences of that action are should you fail. If you do not know what that consequence might be, then that action is a bad one and one you shouldn't try to do. In this example, I know that when I push up with my left back, I'm leaving a lot of space for him to use, but I do have my central backs to back me up when I fail. Everyone has situations where they're outnumbered or the game fails you and you're in a rough spot. Now, if you lose your head, you'll likely make a rash decision and concede 9 out of 10 times. A very good and easy way to not panic is to take control of what you can. Make a decision on something you can affect and stick to that decision. If you keep your focus on that decision, it's easier to not do something you might regret, and because you're still in an outnumbered situation, any good defensive action that could occur is just positive. In the clip that just played, I think I defend well, but the nutmeg animation puts me in a very bad spot and makes it so he has a 4 versus 3. Now in this situation, I decide that I do not want him to go for a sweaty pass past one of the strikers. If I had a choice, I would rather he take the shot off of a tough angle. So I decide to cut off the lane and hope that my goalkeeper saves an eventual shot. What I'm doing here is I'm taking control of what I can in the situation I am in, which makes me able to at least cut off a tap-in pass. So this is something I use a lot. You see a player making a run, you see a potential dangerous option, and you want to cut that pass, but at the same time you're afraid of leaving space. A very easy way to force your opponent to make a decision is you use the second man press to pressure the ball holder while you manually cut off the space. Now you can always switch back to the man pressing if you feel you can win the ball back. This is especially effective when defending on the wings, but you can use it almost anywhere on the field. Many people struggle with defending against killers, and I understand that. It's very hard knowing what to do. But when you're putting pressure in the box or against a skiller, never pick a side. What you're doing is you're giving him an option to pass you. The easiest way to deal with dribblers or skiller is just step up and stay close to the attacker. Following the ball, that as I mentioned before, or picking a side where you think the attacker will go, means that in 50% of the situation, he's gonna pass you, because this leaves space on the other side that good players will be able to exploit. Instead, when you move up, stop just before you get to the attacker and stay there. What you want to do is you move in accordance to how he's moving, but to cut off a shot, not to win the ball back. You want to prohibit him from getting a good opportunity to shoot. If you commit, you're giving him the chance to use the space you leave behind. What you want to do is you want him to get into your space. You don't want to move up and invite him in and give him an opportunity to actually use it. The times that you should commit is when you have someone else backing you up. Now defending is very nuanced. It isn't as straightforward as attacking or as dribbling, and it boils down way more to your understanding of the game. As in the other guides I've made, focus on one thing and keep focusing on that thing until it becomes second nature, and then you move on to the next one. It's impossible to pay attention to all of these things at the same time, but the more you focus on one thing, the easier it becomes, and when it's become a second nature and a habit, you move on to the next one. But yeah, that was what I had for defending. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like. If you got any questions, you could always leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer. I do stream my games on Twitch if you want to chat outside of the videos, or you could follow me on any social media platform. If you have anything specific you would want a guide on, let me know and I'll see what I can do. But until next time, take care and have a good day.